You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
All right, MMA fans. So I reached out to one of the YouTube legends. This dude, I've been watching his channel for a long time, and I reached out and I was like, hey, Red Pill, do you want to come on? Red Pill, what's happening?
Hey, what's the story, pal? Thanks for having me on.
I love it, dude. Like I started watching you a while ago, and I'm not going to lie. Your Ian Garry takes, I used to just wait and hope you were going to talk about Ian Garry. Where are you at with him these days?
I was doing a stream the other night and somebody popped in there and they were talking about Ian Garry. And believe it or not, I'm actively moving away from talking about him. We had the story, I saw that you covered it as well when his wife came out and she was like claiming defamation on everybody again. And she was reading some Shakespeare stuff. It was cringe and embarrassing.
In the Shakespearean classic, Iago tells Othello about Desmonda's adultery and he blindly believes the rumours. It's serendipity and not merely coincidental that Iago was lying. There was no truth to the story at all. Othello, like the crowd at UFC 298, was cruelly misled by Iago's jealousy and insecurities. Othello was never the cuckold he was called. His wife was never an adulteress. And notably, when the lies were exposed, Iago was taken away to be tortured and killed.
And that kind of encapsulates exactly what Ian Garry is. You know where I am with it right now? I find it offensive that Colby Covington responds to him. I find it offensive that the UFC have him there on this pinnacle where he's going to fight Colby Covington. I think it's disgusting. I think the dude hasn't proved himself inside the octagon. He's a decent fighter. He's a good fighter. But, you know, if we look at the Jeff Neal fight, he ran away for 3 rounds. He ran away for 3 rounds after he ran away from the biggest fight of his life back in December. So for me, it's just like, I don't want Colby Covington to even acknowledge this dude. Go back and fight guys that are just coming up. Go back and prove something. You know, you had a decent fight lined up with Vicente Luque. You bailed out of that. You went in with Jeff Neal. You ran away for 5 or 3 rounds. It's like, no, I'm not engaging in it, man. It's embarrassing. You know what I have? I have Ian Garry muted, the words Ian Garry muted on social media because I can't stand his face. It's as simple as that. Every time I see him and you don't hear his voice, you can just see him gesturing like whatever it is that his bird wrote for him. I'm like, nah, I can't do that, man. No way.
Oh man, I'm sorry, that makes me laugh. And while I kind of agree with you about him running from Luque, I mean, he was pretty sick. Although I don't know,
I don't believe he was sick at all.
Yeah.
I think that he might have had a sniffle. I don't believe he was sick. I believe it was a complete premeditated act by his wife. I was going to say his team, but that pretty much consists of his wife. It was a premeditated act. He might have had a bit of a cold, man, but he wasn't hospitalized with pneumonia. You know, all the fake pictures of him wearing the same socks, lying down like it was a photo shoot. When you're sick, you don't get your bird to follow you around and take photographs. It's like, get the hell away from me. I want to be on my own. I want to get better. Sad. Absolutely sad.
Yeah. Well, with all that said, though, here's the thing. My thing with Colby Covington, his shtick is up. He fought horrendously. Like, he looked awful. He ran from Leon, pretended he won. Like, I'm like, okay, he's lowered. Now, Ian hasn't raised to that level. Colby's lowered to his level. And that's where I want to see those two knuckleheads fight.
Okay, let's break this down, right? I'm a Colby Covington fan. I always have been, and I take a lot of heat online. I'm not a fan of the bullshit, right? I'm not a fan of the fake trash talk. I'm not a fan of all that type of shtick, right? I think that to an extent, in terms of patriotism, he does a great job. In terms of cardio within the octagon, I think he does an amazing job. I think that, I think if you think about the Leon Edwards fight, right? People put Leon Edwards all the way up on this pedestal as well. I have an issue with that. I have a massive issue with that. What way did that fight finish? It finished with Colby Covington absolutely dominating the welterweight champion of the world. He couldn't get up off the ground. What a terrible look to end your domination, your 5-round domination. And if we are to believe Colby, which I don't know whether I do or I don't, but he said that he broke his foot in the first 30 seconds of that fight. So it's an interesting one. I hated the build up to it. I hated the way UFC and the media took Leon Edwards' side. I hated all that type of stuff. I didn't like Colby's going after people's dead parents. That was trash, right?
That was over the line.
But what's more over the line? Saying something which was essentially the truth, because we know that Leon's father was a gangster and a criminal and God knows what he did to innocent people. So in terms of telling the truth in a really harsh way like he did, is that over the line? When the next day you're going into an octagon where the cage is going to be closed and your job is to essentially go after each other until someone stops moving. The only way someone stops that is a referee. So, like, it's the fight game.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I'm torn though. Like, I feel like there is a line, and Colby got to it. He pushed it, and he went over it. And I think Sean Strickland did the same thing with Dricus when Dricus started talking about his history and being abused. And I think Sean had already crossed that line and talking about wives and stuff. And I think it took it coming back on him for him to actually realize it. But I don't like that. I feel like you go after the person. If you want to go after their corner, you can. If you want to go after anyone involved, but a guy in prison, like, that's hard, man. And that's just I didn't like it. And I don't like the dressing up. Now, you can do that stuff as long as you win. You can do it as long as you win. But when you do that and then you come out, get smoked. And I know you said that Leon was on him at the end of that fight, but come on, man. That was 4.5 rounds of domination by Leon. And then a couple seconds of Colby reversing him after Leon just tried to take him down, which was, he never even engaged. That was embarrassing. You don't talk that kind of shit and then don't engage.
Tell me this though, right? Do we believe the story? Like, do we believe the picture that came out of the X-ray and the broken foot?
I don't care. You think that would stop Justin Gaethje? You think that would stop Max Holloway?
Justin Gaethje's a different dude, though, man. He's a different dude. You know what I mean?
But I'm just saying,
there's certain guys that can do it. You know, when you see a fighter have a completely off night, I don't think I've ever seen Colby Covington perform that bad, ever.
No, it was the worst.
Like, if you think about, he had a long time out of the octagon, but before that, he dominated Jorge Masvidal for 5 rounds. So I was expecting something in between that. Like, come on, give us something. You know what I mean? So I don't know where I got to with that Colby trash talk. I'm not a big fan of people complaining about trash talk, like Ian Garry, for instance. Sean Strickland, who is someone that I really do like. I didn't like when he started crying about the trash talk coming from Dricus. I was like, dude, you're literally going after everybody. You went after people that had passed away and you laughed at them. You know that story about the Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner chick?
Yes.
It was like, all right, dude. All right. Like, come on, you can do that. But don't get me wrong. I know we're jumping all over the place here, but Sean Strickland should still be the champion of the world, I believe. I think that he won that fight against Dricus. I think that the UFC and higher-ups took that belt off of him because he didn't represent what they want as a champion. 100%. And look at where it kind of ended up. 24 hours before a contentious fight where it was a split decision and the champion usually gets the nod in them situations, it goes to Dricus. 24 hours before it, we had like one of the biggest media outbursts ever in the UFC in terms of that woke reporter fella and Strickland putting him in his place.
Oh, we're in complete agreement about Sean Strickland getting screwed. They never wanted him to be champion. And I think, this is what I heard behind the scenes. Dana White went to bat with Disney or the higher ups. They never wanted to give Sean even a chance because they know what he is and what he represents. And Israel assured them, no chance this guy beats me. No chance this guy beats me. And when he lost, why do you think Dana was so mad? Because not because Sean won, because now he's got to go, I'm sorry, guys. And he took so much heat for that. And then everything Sean says from there on, that's on Dana for actually allowing that position. I don't know Sean Gift. I don't see him ever getting another shot. I mean, I don't know. And I don't know. It's a tough situation.
I covered a video the other day of Israel Adesanya. I think the dude is delusional and sad. And he talked about the reign that Sean Strickland had as a champion. And he's there and he's clapping on Ariel Helwani and he's like sneering and jiving, going, yeah, this is like a great reign. Fair play to him. It's like, dude, you have no idea. Maybe he does. Maybe we're all just being conned by it. That was taken off of him. He should be getting a rematch right now with Dricus du Plessis. 100%. There's no way Israel Adesanya should be coming back to the octagon and getting a shot at the title. Absolutely not. And when we talk about, and again, this is conspiratorial, but it's just an opinion. When we talk about, people say it all the time, what are you talking about that the UFC is turning woke, or the UFC is like diversity and inclusion now? It's like Dana might talk a big game, you know, like when he's on a Theo Von podcast about what he said when people came after him for who he votes for. That might be a nice little soundbite. But when we look at the roster and we look at Israel Adesanya promoting LGBTQ and all this type of stuff, and he's an extremely racist dude then as well, you look at that and it's like, that's your champion. That's who you love. And Sean Strickland obviously is ruffling feathers. You don't love him.
No, I agree. And the thing is I don't think Dana's woke at all. I think Dana believes what he says. The problem is he's got to go answer to people. He's not the sole owner anymore. It's not just him and the Fertitas. He does answer to people. So he's not that 100% say. And I think if it was up to him, he really would be that way.
Oh, I think so, 100%. We know that like the acquisition of Disney and ESPN, that whole deal, and we get into like ESG scoring and DEI ratings and all this type of stuff. For a big company, big corporations, they have to abide by this like propagandized regime. It's literally. I'm Star Wars guy. Love Star Wars. Love sci-fi.
They ruined it.
They ruined it. And I spent so many years talking about it on live streams and on videos with people. And it used to be like, why are they doing this? And when you find out the reason why, you know, it's all about funding, lobbyists, ECG scores. When you realize that that's the thing, you go, okay, so there's nothing that can't be taken from us. You know, there's nothing like even MMA, you know, even the UFC, as based as Dana is. And I love when he's based. I love when he tells people to get lost. I'm going to say what I want. Even that, as you said, he's got people to answer to. Ariel Helwani, he's a rat. I can't stand the dude. But he said during the Strickland interactions with that woke guy above in Canada, he said, listen, I heard it through the grapevine that the UFC higher-ups came to Sean Strickland after that press conference, and they didn't reprimand him, but they told him, okay, you can't really be saying stuff like that. And that does open up so many doors in terms of, okay, so there was higher-ups coming after Strickland that week. We didn't hear about that. All we heard about was Dana saying, I don't have a leash on anyone. They can say whatever they want. But the inside track was there was higher-ups in the locker room with Strickland right after that press conference, reprimanding him essentially. So it's interesting, and that's what I do over on my channel. I try to pick out bits and pieces that I think are propagandized gaslighting, you know, like there's a lot of it that goes on there. And when I started the channel in the beginning, I used to go after everybody. I was going after Chael Sonnen and Michael Bisping. Me and Chael had a back and forth for a while. We met in the middle with common ground. He gave me a shout out. I was talking about him, and he's a good dude, and he got it, you know. But that was my aim. It was to go, okay, let's point out, even within the most based right-wing sport that's out there, that it's still vulnerable to diversity and inclusion and all this type of garbage that gets forced down our neck on a daily basis. And for any kind of sports fan, which I know that you are yourself, I used to be big into football, like soccer over here in Europe. And I haven't watched it in like 4 years because of identity politics being infused into it. It's hard. And I remember at the time, now I from a very young age, I used to support a football team here in the UK, and everything would revolve around it. Children's christenings, weddings, you name it. It was all like, okay, if Manchester United are playing, we can't go on holidays. We can't have a christening. And then I got to the stage where all these guys that were playing on the team were bowing down for Black Lives Matter. They were all wearing gay pride armbands. There was banners up all over the stadiums telling people to put stuff in their body that they didn't know what it was. And I was like, okay, I'm out. I'm done with that. And I wanted to speak out about it at the time. but I didn't. And then watching UFC, being a fan, training a little bit myself, I'm like, you know what? I might start pointing that out a little bit. And when I did, away she went.
No, and your channel's awesome. And that's what I caught on when I started watching. I'm like, damn, this guy gets it. I like it. Instantly subscribe, like. I started searching your old videos, and yeah, it's good stuff. Hey, what do you think of Bo Nickal? I was so critical, and I could not believe they made the matchup against Cody Brundage. And the odds makers agreed with me. I have William Hill here in Las Vegas, and they had him at minus 2,800. If it's minus 2,800, you're telling me it's such a mismatch. The commission shouldn't even sanction it. That's a dangerous bout. What are your thoughts on him, on that bout, and where he goes from here?
I like Bo Nickal. He's my type of guy. You know, he's patriotic. He loves his country. He loves his faith. He's not frightened to show it. I love all that. I'm into grappling. I like what he does in there. I don't think he should have been on the main card at UFC 300. I think that was a little bit, actually more than a little bit, insulting to the likes of Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway. Like, come on. So there must have been some sort of, you know, under the table deal happening there for him to be up there. And what happened in terms of the result and the performance, he was booing himself at the end of that fight. You know, he was giving himself the thumbs down. He was upset about it. And then I think the adrenaline kicked in, and he tried to cope to a certain extent in terms of, I'm really good and I've got more to show. But dude, the initial reaction was the real reaction. He was devastated on his performance, and it's kind of upsetting to see UFC do this to another rising star. They did it with Paddy Pimblett, who I dislike as well. I think he's a good dude. I think he's very watchable. I like him in interviews. His YouTube channel is awesome. Just the bravado, the fake bravado, and the fact that he's padded out by the UFC and Barstool Sports and all this type of trash, I just don't like it. You know, and when the rubber met the road and he had a couple of decent fights, Jared Gordon lumped him all over the octagon, and they took it off that guy. They robbed him right there and then. So I hate when the UFC do it. I can understand that they're a business, and when they have someone that they think is going to be a big star, they invest in that and they put their time in it. But I think that they probably rushed the Bo Nickal stuff. I don't know whether it was his last fight or the fight before that. He was on an early prelim, and people were like, this is trash that he's on an early prelim. Like, he was like one of the stars over on that Dana show. So I don't know, were they making up for that by giving him a spot on 300 on the main card? It was crazy. But in terms of the performance, I think he was shocked that Cody Brundage was as strong and as good as he was in terms of, you know, maintaining grappling power and pressure. I think he was shocked, and I think he would be even more shocked if he fought bigger names that are more experienced and that can grapple as well.
Yeah, and I don't mind him being on the main card. I don't have an issue with that. I mean, he is a star. That's the guy everyone's looking at to beat Khamzat Chimaev eventually. But I wanted to see him against Brad Tavares. I wanted to see him against Brendan Allen. I wanted to see him against, a higher level of fighter. Nothing against Cody Brundage, and he fought his ass off, and I have nothing but respect for him in that performance. But if you got Bo Nickal and you're going to put him on the main card, if you want to put him on the prelim or early prelim against Brundage, no problem. But if you're going to the main card, it's got to be a better fight. I quit watching boxing because I don't like squash matches. I don't like seeing guys get 38-0. I'm okay with a loss. I want to see how a guy rebounds from a loss. I want to see him taking on the best competition. Yeah. And, that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, it almost backfired on Dana, putting him up there on the main card, if it was Dana's decision to put him up there. And as you said, a higher class, a more experienced level of fighter like Brendan Allen, who I really do like. And he just had a battle a week ago on a fight night. It's like,
that him and Chris Curtis.
Yeah, that could have been pushed. That could have been pushed, and you could have brought Brendan Allen in there. As you said, a bigger name. But in terms of if we're making predictions right now, Bo Nickal versus Khamzat Chimaev, who wins that? 100% Bo Nickal. I have no doubt, absolute domination. Khamzat Chimaev lost his last two fights in the UFC. He lost to Kamaru Usman. He was given that fight because it was in Abu Dhabi. And he lost contentious. Maybe I'm been a bit overzealous, but I'm pretty sure that it was extremely close with Gilbert Burns, who fought at 145, remember, and that was supposed to be a run-through fight for Khamzat Chimaev. He got lumped all over the octagon. He barely made the way out of that fight. So the hype train again, just like Bo Nickal, just like Paddy Pimblett, it's like Kamaru Usman rolled off the couch after 5 days and almost beat Khamzat Chimaev. Another round, he was done. The dude was smoked. He was smoked.
That's alarming that the guy on short notice out cardioed the guy who was preparing for a fight.
And the guy with blown out knees, and he's like 37 or 38. He's from a weight below. He doesn't compete up at 185. He comes in there and almost runs through you. It doesn't look good, man.
But I mean, you're downplaying Usman. I don't care. Usman off the couch. This dude might be the greatest welterweight to ever fight. He's good, man. Look, did you see how many guys he beat? He beat your guy Colby twice, and those were some great fights, man.
Did he beat him twice?
Yes,
well, there was a trilogy.
It was
of
close.
Fights,
it was close. The trilogy. He beat him 3 times.
The second fight was close. The first fight, he won.
Second fight, had they not stopped it, I think Colby was up, right?
Yeah. He was up. In my opinion,
with a broken jaw, that was
crazy.
crazy.
Colby had 3 rounds in that second fight, but the first fight was a battle. That was a great fight, man. Yeah, that was a great fight.
Okay, let's move on, and we'll go to the last topic, and I will let you go, my man. I appreciate the time.
You can listen, fire whatever questions you want at me. No hassle, man. I can talk for a bit.
Okay. I was at 300. We're watching Arman Tsarukyan, and I have hell of a time with that last name, but I think it's Tsarukyan.
Yeah.
Arman Tsarukyan coming out, popped a fan. And I thought, well, maybe if the fan grabbed him. Turns out he just the fan was just flipping the bird.
Yeah.
How are they just glossing over that? They're gonna do what they do to Sean Strickland, yet they gave Arman a title shot. Literally moments after punching a fan, and the security had to grab him. He was going after another fan. I'm like, and I don't even think he won the fight. I thought Charles won that fight.
You see, now we're getting into kind of contentious conversation here, because the optics looked terrible for Arman Tsarukyan as this like beast of a guy. What way did that fight end? That fight ended with Charles Oliveira being on top of him, having a darce choke, sank in, and the optics look terrible, just like Colby versus Leon, but we won't go back there. But Arman Tsarukyan, let's talk about him. We know that these boys, right? These lads, these kind of Russian, Kazakhstan, Georgian, we know that these guys get privilege in the UFC. We just know it. You know, like Islam has privilege, Khamzat has privilege.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by privilege?
I think that it's an interesting one. If you look at the trajectory of all these fighters, you know, they get more time. You know, they get to pick where they want to fight. Islam is another one. It's like, dude hasn't fought in 6 months. I know that he went in there like a quick little turnaround with Volkanovski, but even that first fight with Volkanovski, that's a contentious one. It was on Islam's home ground, so it went to him, I guess, you know.
It was close. I mean, when they're that close, it's really hard to tell.
But look, let's talk about Tsarukyan, right?
Okay.
Let's talk about, does he receive special privileges within the UFC? The last card that he was on, he came up and started a brawl in the hotel lobby with Bobby Green. Got like 10 guys involved. There was people punched in the face. He initiated it for this kind of gladiator stoic mentality that, oh, this guy talked shit about me on a social media post, so I went over and I got up in his face and there was punches thrown, right? That was the last fight. He came in the other night, he punches some kid into the head, and you're like, what the hell? Then I saw this kind of tongue-in-cheek clip yesterday. I think that he was on with Daniel Cormier, and he was saying that one of the judges was giving the bout versus Charles Oliveira to Charles, and the guy was crazy. And if I had lost that fight, I would have hurt that judge. Let's just say that's what he was saying. And it might have been in jest. It might have been a bit jokey, but dude, have some humility. You should be fucked out of the UFC for striking a fan. That's insanity. How's he getting away with that? And as you said, got offered a title shot backstage and turned it down.
What Paul Daly did, remember when he punched Koscheck after the bell? That was bad. That was bad. He was banned from the UFC. This is worse. How the hell is nobody talking about it? I don't understand. Like, why?
Oh yeah. It's all kind of fun and games. The kid who got punched, he came out and they did a little article and he was like, I never thought about like pressing charges or like putting in sort of libelous claims or whatever. And it's like, bro, you just got punched by a UFC future champion. What's up with that?
There has got to be a hard line on certain things. You never touch the referee. You don't hold chokes too long, and you don't punch civilians. You just don't. They're not. It's dangerous.
Yeah. He seems to be suffering from small man syndrome. I think the dude is like 5'1" and he feels like the world is against him or something like that. And as you said there, in terms of the Charles Oliveira fight, that was a close fight, man. That was I like he did extremely well to escape in the first round when everyone was dry and it was really sank in. But like that guy, he's just like a ratty little teenager. It's like, come on, bro. You're supposed to be a professional. And the more and more that we go on and the more lenience that this guy receives, you just punch the guy. You started a brawl with Bobby Green. You're telling interviewers that you're going to hurt the judges. And what happens next? You're going to be the champion because Dana, the UFC, whoever is making these big decisions know that this guy becomes the champion. There's a huge market after opening up. We've got more Abu Dhabi fights. We've got more, Eastern Bloc fights. It's all very political and very strategized.
I know. I don't care who it is. Conor McGregor, anyone. You punch a fan, you are out for a year. You threaten a judge, you're probably out for life. But changing topics just a little bit. Did you see one of the judges was Adelaide Bird? Do you know much about her?
No, never heard of her.
Dude, so this is the chick that scored the Canelo Triple G fight way off. There, if you just Google Adelaide Bird, there's scandals everywhere. She's one of the ones that gave it to him. I'm like, how does this old lady that knows nothing about MMA, dude? I have no idea. The judges in London, Nevada are corrupt as hell. So anyone that wins a close decision, just ask yourself if, there's a lot of fuckery that goes on here.
I think so, man. I think you can be extremely naive in terms of thinking, oh no, man, sport is not rigged, but football, bigger sports, soccer, these are all done, like there's too much money at play here. People have their fingers in the pie. And even with UFC, I don't know how many times where we'd say, oh my God, this was a robbery. But like in fairness, the Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland was probably the one that's most close to mind. It wasn't a robbery, but when the decision went to Dricus, everybody was like, this is weird. Like Dana said that Sean Strickland won. The commentary team said that Sean Strickland won. 50-50 split. You're going.
I'll be honest with you. I had it for Dricus, but if they said Strickland, I wouldn't have been pissed. And you're right. So we have NBA basketball. Are you familiar with that here in the United States?
Small bit, yeah.
So the referees can call based on their opinion on whether they hit, and they do. They've been caught gambling, and they just blow. They can't completely fix the game, but they can make it go one direction or the other, and that's a sit. So you can't completely fix it, but yes, you can get those close ones the other direction, and that's where it's not completely fixed,
man.
But it's close.
Over here in the UK, we have football, soccer, and it's a 90-minute game. And I think there was two big teams, Liverpool, Chelsea, or someone like that, were playing a couple of weeks ago, and the game ran like 99 minutes. And guess who won? It was bizarre. So you got an extra 9 minutes. So it can't be like overtly fixed, but it can be nudged left and right. And the commentary team, depending on what sport it is, in UFC, I always call out the commentary team. They definitely nudge the spectators in certain directions. They definitely nudge us and like, this is an amazing performance. And it's like, are you watching the same fight as me? Because I ain't seeing that. You know what I mean?
See, and I don't know. I have a hard time believing anybody tells Joe Rogan what he can or can't say.
I'm talking John Anik and Daniel Cormier.
Okay, you can control John Anik.
That I've called out.
You can call.
Like Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier. Well, look, the two boys, like Daniel Cormier is going to go for his buddies, right? If they're wrestling lads or if they're black lads, he's going to be putting his money on them boys. That's just the way the world works. John Anik is a wokester. John Anik, like I've seen him standing in between Colby, Leon, standing in between Drickis and Sean, and he's like stone faced when Sean and Colby are speaking. He's just like directly looking ahead. And when we hear the kind of garbage, the regurgitation from these other guys, he's like nodding and smiling. It's like, yeah, you got him, man. You got him. It's like, okay, bro. Okay, bro. There's no face there. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. Hey, bro, I just realized how long I've had you on here. I told you 20, 30 minutes, but man, Red Pill, this is so much fun. I hope you'll come on with me again, or we do this in your channel, whatever. I really enjoy chatting with you. I'm here in Vegas. I head over to Extreme Couture quite a bit. So if you ever need any info, hit me up.
100%, man. Thanks for having me on. And as I said, hit me up anytime if you want to talk about anything. We'll jump on, we'll do an hour. There's no hassle. We'll do a live stream. I'll get you over onto mine and we'll reciprocate it and we'll see what happens. No problem, man. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, that's the YouTube game. We all, you know, it helps to have, like for you right now, like you're throwing the ladder down to me and I appreciate it. So yeah, very
No
cool.
problem. No problem.
Okay. All right, my friend, you have a good night.
Same to you, bro. Cheers.